Hello everyone in Cyber World. Welcome back to another video. I'm Richard and this is our channel we call Poor Man's DIY. As you can see, this week I'm alone, but there's a reason for it. Last week, if you watched our video, well, we explained that this week we're going to be doing a video explaining some new features that come with xTools creative space software. And after debating the best way to do this is yours truly, the computer IT geek, is the one who's going to be working this. We didn't figure there would be a good way of tagging back and forth and doing the video, so I'm going to be doing the whole thing, and therefore I'm doing the opening all on my own as well. So let's get started. So as I mentioned in the opening, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on xTools' newest upgrade to XCS software. What they have done is they've included something that's referred to as layers. For those of you who are familiar with Lightburn, this is a very similar feature. It's not quite up to the level of Lightburn, but it is a great improvement over the software that they have been using thus far. They keep adding on some features and they get better and better. Now, if you're familiar with Lightburn, this might not be a video that you're going to need to watch, but you might learn from it. For those of you who are new and have never used Lightburn before, this is a new feature that I think will help you out with using XCS and the features that it already has available. If you watched our original video on XCS software for beginners, we explained how you can actually import images and then turn those into cut files that are used to actually use control your M1 to cut designs that you've created. Now, in this particular case, importing an image and then creating the cut lines doesn't necessarily work well with this new features on layers. At least I haven't been able to get it to fully function. Right now, this works primarily on SVG files that you import, but there could be more to it, and later on in the video I'm going to show you some other features and other ways that it actually works other than SVG, but again, that'll be more towards the end. So for now, we're going to go ahead and import an SVG file, and in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and import an SVG file of Poor Man's DIY logo. Now, when you import this particular file, you'll notice that there are a bunch of different options. Every circle, every line, every feature in this SVG file that is imported has its own feature. So what does that mean is that you can set each one of those up. You can set one line so that it cuts. You can set one line so that it's a score. You can set some lines so they actually engrave. Now, this is going to be important because with the layer feature, these are the things that you're going to be able to control independently. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller here so that we can work with this. Now, if you take a look at this right now, every item in this particular image is set up as what's referred to as layer 1. What we can do here is actually assign a particular instruction for each one of these items within layer 1, but we're going to show you a little more details and kind of help you to understand what the layers are. All right, now let me try and explain this first of all. A layer is exactly what the word says. It's a compilation of different multiple levels of an image. You may have an image, like in this particular case, the Poor Man's DIY, that is a flat image, but think of the layers as different steps that you want to do in different layers. In this particular case, if I just want to cut out the circle and nothing else, I can set up layer 1 with instructions so that it only cuts the circle. I may want to say in layer 2, I want to cut the circle, and I also want to engrave one of the letters within there. Both of those can be done in layer 1. If you have multiple layers, what you can do is give instructions for your M1 to cut just the instructions on layer 2, and you can, if you have already set several layers, you can also tell it not to print, or I'm sorry, not to cut or engrave any things that are in layer 2, 3, 4, etc. So you can actually work on these one by one. Why would you do this? Well, we can get into that a little bit more, but now let's go ahead and discuss the layers themselves in a little more detail. So when we imported the entire image, everything on the image automatically went into one layer referred to as layer 1. In this particular case, now we're going to go ahead and create a second layer. We're going to highlight the letter Y and the letter I. We're going to go down to the bottom here for more options, and we're going to click on that. And from this, we're going to assign those to layer 2. Now, layer 2 is a different color. I'm embarrassed to say I am colorblind, and so I can't tell you off the top. I believe it's red is what I was told. I'm trying to remember this, but anyhow, layer 2 items are now identified with a different color. So by doing so now, layer 2, we can set instructions specifically for layer 2, and in this case, we're going to say we want to engrave things, and we're going to change the settings on there to the power levels as well as the speed. And now, those two items are set with layer 2, and they will be different from layer 1. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at this little design above the screwdriver as part of the letter P. We're going to go ahead and highlight that. We're going to go ahead and down on the selected object area, we're going to, well, there we go. We're going to click on that and move to, and we're going to set it to another color. So right now, there are 3 different layers for this particular image. On this layer number 3, we're going to set this for score, and we're going to set power and speed as well on that. So now you have layers 1, layer 2, and layer 3. Each one is going to be doing something different. All right, now, let me go back to layer 1. We're going to go ahead and set all of these for the ability to cut. And there we go. Okay, as you can see, we've actually set up 3 different layers. Layer 1 is set up for cutting. Layer 2 is setting up for engraving. Layer 3 is setting up to score. Now, those are the 3 features that you can do with the M1, so why would you need 8 different layers? So let me give you an example on this one. Let's imagine that this design here is actually an ornament. And when we create ornaments, we create the top layer out of 1/8 inch plywood, but we also create a backing. So the backing is usually 1/4 inch so that it's thicker, so that it makes the item much stronger. So what we're going to do is we duplicated the background circle, and now what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this background circle, and let's go ahead and set this one up as layer 4, and we're going to assign yet another different color to this one here. All right. This particular one, this is going to be designed for cutting a 1/4 inch plywood, and so the settings here are going to be different from the cut on layer 1. Okay, so why again would we do something like this one here? Well, let's imagine that you're going to cut a 1/8 inch the front and the 1/4 inch from the back. Well, it might be a little difficult to put 2 pieces of different size wood into your cutter, although it's possible. The problem is it's going to line up different for the laser, so they're going to have to be cut at different times. Well, then why make this all into one particular cut file? Well, we can actually set this up so that these layers, we can tell which one to actually cut, engrave, and score now, and we can tell the other ones when not to do this by clicking on it, and actually, let's see, when we click on it here, okay, when we click on it, this side one here, we can go ahead and go to the object settings on the side here and click ignore, and then when you tell the instructions to the M1 to go ahead and start cutting, it will only follow the instructions for layers 1, 2, and 3 because we have set those to output, and only layer 4 is set to ignore. So later on, we would go ahead and put in the 1/4 inch plywood, and we would change the settings so that the layer number 4 is now set for cutting, and layers 1 through 3 are set to be ignored. And thus, you have one single file with all the instructions of the cut files, and they're all in one location. Makes it much more convenient. Now, in this particular case, we're actually cutting out two separate circles, but the same concept would apply even if you're only going to be cutting out these items in layer 1, 2, or 3. You could break it down and give it instructions to cut certain parts of it, engrave certain parts of it, and actually score certain parts of it. You can tell some of it to do it now, some of it later, or for whatever reasons there may be. All right, now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is these actual layer names. Now, they come as a default with layer 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to layer 8. But if you right-click on this one here, you can actually click on the rename, and then you'll be able to actually change the name of the layer to something that you can easily remember. In this particular case, we're going to call the cuts from layer 1 cut 1/8 inch plywood. So now we know anything with that particular color is going to cut 1/8 inch, is set to cut 1/8 inch plywood. We can go to layer 4 and rename that, and we're going to go ahead and call that cut 1/4 inch plywood. So now we know just by the colors of the layers what their actual settings are, and the settings for the speed and the power are already set up based on the layer. So we don't have to go back each time and then make some changes or set it for this one. We know simply by the colors what these are and the naming that we've used. All right, the same thing applies. We can do that for layer 2. We can change that name, and in this particular case we're going to go ahead and call it engrave. And for layer 3, we're going to rename that score. Okay, so you probably get the picture by now. You can do this and set up to 8 different layers on this. And it's actually that simple. And it makes things so much easier, so you can set things and simply see by colors and set things up like that. And so now everything with that particular color is going to do the identical options here. Okay, earlier I had mentioned that there are some features that I haven't been able to utilize the layers by importing an image. In this particular case, we're just going to go ahead and use a poor man's image that we're importing. This is not an SVG file. It was a JPEG file, I believe it was, and so we're going to go ahead and trace that and create this as a cut file. The instructions are more details, if you're not familiar how to do that, are covered under the first instruction manual. Now, if you take a look at this one here, unfortunately, every one of the lines that are set for cut or score or engrave, they're all linked together. They're grouped together. Under Lightburn, you can actually import a file, you can trace it and create a similar thing, and they have a feature for ungrouping, and when you click that, every single line within the image is broken up separately, and you can do everything one by one and set each individual instructions. Now, in this particular case with XCS, when you import the image, I have tried several different images with different files, and I haven't been able to get it to work where it allows it to ungroup things. If you've been able to figure out certain files that do work with this feature, please let us know in the comment, and we'll share that, and I'm sure that can help a lot of other people. But as they say, for the time being, I'm not aware of how that works. So with XCS, there is a function to group and ungroup, but in this particular case, even if you were to click on this, the ungroup option does not come up. So this is just one full image, meaning you either set the entire thing to cut, or you set the entire thing to engrave, or the entire thing to score. So unfortunately, that just doesn't quite work for us. So we still kind of use a combination of Lightburn to create an SVG file that we can import into XCS, and from there we can manipulate it, and we love that you can do this with these particular layers. Okay, now we want to show you how you can actually use XCS without actually importing an SVG file. There's still ways that you can do it. So let's say you create images, cut files yourself manually within XCS. So let's kind of make kind of an ornament again. With the XCS software, you can make the circle, you can add text. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and change this to a little bit of a different font. Don't really like that one there. Let's see, we need to change that to some lowercase. Yeah, there we go. And we'll just call it a test. All right, the reason I did this particular font here is because the text actually touch one another. Whereas the other ones, they're not making contact, and so when you cut it out, all the letters will fall out. So, but that's a different story. Sorry. So anyhow, we now have a test. If you click on that, the font, we can set that for one particular layer if we wanted to. We can click on the circle. We can set that for something different. Let's go ahead and add another image. We'll just go ahead and pull in a star. Let's see if we can arrange that and move that in somewhere here so that it's contacting. And now this is now a file that we've created on our own, and each one of those different text, the circles, shapes, they're all separate, and so you can create separate in layers for each one with different instructions for each layer, as we are doing right here. All right, as we mentioned earlier, this doesn't quite live up to Lightburn. It's getting there. But let me explain something that's a little bit different. And this is kind of I don't want to say it's a negative, it's just not quite at the other level of Lightburn. And what I mean here is, on this one here, I discovered that each layer you can have multiple different instructions within the layer. So in layer 1, I could say, cut this, I can engrave this, it's something else, and I can score something else. I go to layer 2 and I can say something else is cut this. So each layer you can do multiple different instructions, whereas in Lightburn you set up everything in a particular layer is set for cut, everything is set for a specific engraving or scoring. And the idea here with Lightburn is that you can then click on a particular image, a particular shape, a letter, and just assign it to a layer. And when you assign it to a layer, it will automatically take on that particular feature of the layer. So the layer has one instruction only. And if that instruction is to cut, everything that's in layer 1 will cut. Anything in layer 2 you want to change it for engraving, anything that you assign in layer 2 will automatically engrave. So you can't have mixed instructions within the same layer. I personally like that because then I can just click on one thing and assign it, and it's immediately set to do that one particular function. Unfortunately, with this one here, what I found is that, yeah, I can do multiple different functions within the same layer. So if the original import puts everything in as a cut with only a 1% power and 1 speed, and then I create a new layer 2 and I want it for engraving, well, I now have to click on everything that I want to be in layer 2, and I have to assign each of them an instruction for engraving. If I don't, they will be in layer 2, but all their instructions will still be set for scoring. So I think eventually maybe XTools will look into that, and maybe they found that this way works better for them. Maybe they will change it and make it a little bit similar to Lightburn. But nonetheless, the layers are really helping me out. Up until this point, I have found it much easier to create an image and for cut file, for example, and then I would save that, and then I would make a copy of that file, open it back up, create another one for cuts that are going to be 1/8 inch. I would save that, and so I'd end up saving multiple XCS files, and then I would bring each one to do something different on there. With this one here, I could do it all in a single file. I can tell which one's to output, which one's not to output, and so that has made it much easier where I only need to deal with one XCS file. So overall, I think this is a fantastic upgrade, and is it as good as Lightburn? Not yet, but they are getting really, really close, and I think they've done a fantastic job on this one here. So that's what we have for today. It wasn't a whole bunch, but this was the feature that was recently updated. We hope this actually helps you out. All right, for next week, we're making a special project, but it's going to be using something that we've never done before. So we're going to go ahead and use and teach you how to cut acrylic with your xTool M1. But in doing so, we're also going to actually make a project with the acrylic that we cut out. We're going to try some different techniques to go along with that. This is something that's a special gift that we wish to present to some friends. So we're looking forward to having that one out there. So until we see you again, I will have my partner in hand with me next time. But until then, bye-bye.